This is the story of a company that beat out hundreds of cities to build its home in Atlanta, and is now shutting down one of its own Atlanta hubs while the city watches. On March 2nd, 2026, UPS closed its hub at 270 Marvin Miller Drive, off Fulton Industrial Boulevard. To most of the country, that's just an address. To Atlanta, it's a small piece of something much bigger, the largest network consolidation in UPS's 118-year history is now reaching the company's own hometown. To understand why that matters, you have to go back much further than 1991. You have to go back to a basement under a saloon in Seattle in 1907. That year, a 19-year-old named Jim Casey borrowed $100 from a friend's uncle and opened a 6-by-17-foot office beneath a bar at 2nd Avenue and Main Street. With 2 bicycles, 1 shared telephone, and a handful of teenage messengers, Casey and his partner Claude Ryan started the American Messenger Company. Their pitch was simple: honest estimates and reliable delivery, in a city where 9 competing messenger services already existed. By 1912, they had 100 employees. In 1919, the company expanded beyond Seattle and took a new name: United Parcel Service. For most of the 20th century, UPS moved its headquarters the way a growing company does, first to Oakland, then New York, then Connecticut in 1975, chasing the geography of American commerce as it shifted east. By the late 1980s, the company was headquartered in Greenwich, Connecticut, a quiet, wealthy suburb that had nothing to do with the actual business of moving packages. In 1991, UPS's leadership, led by Chairman Kent Nelson, decided that had to change. They didn't pick the next city casually. UPS reviewed hundreds of towns and cities across the country, running what amounted to a nationwide audition for its next home. Atlanta won. The move was not small. UPS relocated almost 1,000 employees, who went on to buy roughly 400 homes in the region. Hundreds more workers were hired locally. In its very first year, the relocation generated $325 million for Atlanta's economy. Over the following decade, the real impact blew past even UPS's own $2 billion forecast. In 1994, UPS opened a new corporate headquarters in Sandy Springs, just north of the city, a complex designed by Atlanta architects, built with its own on-site tree preservation program. That building, at 55 Glen Lake Parkway, is still UPS's global headquarters today. Then UPS did something that made the relationship impossible to miss. It bought its way into the city's biggest moment. When the 1996 Olympics came to Atlanta, UPS spent close to $100 million sponsoring the games, its largest advertising campaign in company history at the time. The company wanted the Olympic ring's worldwide recognition to rub off on its brown trucks. But there was a second effect nobody needed to advertise. Every time the world watched Atlanta that summer, it was implicitly watching UPS's new hometown. For 30 years, that bet paid off. Atlanta became inseparable from UPS's identity. Today, the company employs roughly 12,000 people across the metro area, making it one of the region's largest private employers. Say UPS to someone in Atlanta, and there is a good chance they know someone who drives the trucks, works the hub, or flies the planes. It is also worth remembering that the relationship between UPS and its workforce has never been simple. In 1997, a strike by 185,000 Teamsters members shut down UPS operations nationwide for 16 days, one of the largest strikes in modern American labor history. The company survived it, and the two sides kept negotiating contracts for nearly 3 decades afterward. That history matters, because it means the current tension is not new. It is the same negotiation, playing out again at a much larger scale, which is what makes the last 2 years so jarring. In 2024, UPS launched an initiative it called Network of the Future, a plan to modernize and consolidate its facilities across the country. On its own, that sounds like ordinary corporate housekeeping. It wasn't. In 2025, UPS closed 93 buildings and pushed automation into 57 more. The company eliminated 48,000 jobs that year alone, 34,000 operational roles, and 14,000 management positions. And the plan's full ambition is larger still. UPS has said the Network of the Future initiative envisions closing up to 200 sortation centers over 5 years, with the current phase expected to wrap by 2027 and save the company roughly $3 billion in 2026 alone. Then, on January 27, 2026, UPS's Chief Financial Officer Brian Dykes stood in front of investors on an earnings call and announced the next round. Up to 30,000 more jobs cut in 2026, and 24 buildings closed in the first half of the year alone. Combined with the year before, that is roughly 78,000 jobs eliminated in 24 months at a company that employed close to 500,000 people at the start of 2024. For weeks, UPS did not say which 24 buildings. Then, on January 30th, a letter became public. Not because UPS chose to release it, but because it was filed as an exhibit in a federal court case in Massachusetts, where the Teamsters union is suing the company over a separate dispute. The letter, written by UPS's President of Global Labor Relations, Daniel Bordoni, named 22 of the 24 facilities marked for closure. They were spread across 18 states, and they were not all small operations. The list included a major regional hub in West Columbia, South Carolina, over 200,000 square feet in size, and one of the 22 was in Atlanta. The root cause is not a mystery. Amazon has been UPS's largest customer for years, and UPS is now cutting that relationship nearly in half. By the company's own account, roughly 60% of its Amazon package volume was not even profitable. At the same time, UPS is handing off a category of ground shipments to the United States Postal Service for final delivery. Both moves are, in the company's own words, expected to touch substantially every UPS center and delivery route in the country in some form. So when the Marvin Miller Drive hub went dark on March 2nd, it was not a standalone decision about one Atlanta building. It was one line item in a nationwide restructuring that happened, this time, to land inside the company's own zip code. Here's the part that most coverage missed. This wasn't UPS packing up and leaving Atlanta. A few miles away, at 1100 Fulton Industrial Boulevard, UPS was doing the opposite, expanding a facility it calls the Smart Hub, built around automated systems designed to move packages faster with fewer hands touching them. Employees losing their jobs at Marvin Miller Drive weren't simply laid off. They were offered positions at the Smart Hub, or at another nearby facility in Pleasantdale that had just reopened after upgrades. Which means the real story isn't abandonment, it's substitution. UPS didn't leave Atlanta. It closed the version of Atlanta that needed hundreds of workers to sort packages by hand, and it's building the version that needs far fewer of them a few miles down the road. It's worth noting this pattern isn't universal across UPS's whole network either. Louisville, Kentucky, home to UPS's massive Worldport air cargo hub, has seen the opposite treatment in the same period. A new $220 million aircraft hangar completed in 2025, and more than $1.2 billion invested in Kentucky over 5 years. UPS isn't retreating everywhere. It's reallocating everywhere, investing in the parts of its network built around planes and automation, and cutting the parts built around manual ground sorting. Atlanta, despite being the company's home address, sits on the losing side of that particular line. And the retrenchment didn't stop at the hub gates. In 2025, as part of a broader $465 million round of sale-leaseback deals, UPS sold a 133,000 square foot office building at 35 Glen Lake Parkway, steps from its own global headquarters, to an outside real estate firm for $16.5 million. The company that once bought its way into Atlanta's biggest moment was, 3 decades later, quietly selling off real estate next door to the building it built to prove it was staying. None of this is happening without a fight. To hit its cost targets, UPS is offering roughly 105,000 drivers a buyout of $150,000 plus benefits if they voluntarily resign. The Teamsters union, which represents about 80% of UPS's U.S. workforce, is suing to block the program, arguing it violates their labor contract by letting UPS reshape its workforce without going through the union at all. As of this recording, that fight is still working its way through federal court. Nobody yet knows how it ends, so what does Atlanta actually lose, and what does it keep? It keeps the headquarters. It keeps 12,000 jobs, at least for now. It keeps the label of UPS's hometown. The company isn't taking that away, not officially, not on paper. But it loses a piece of what that label used to mean. A guarantee that being UPS's home city made you immune to the same network math being applied everywhere else. Atlanta discovered in early 2026 that it wasn't immune. It was simply one line on a spreadsheet in the same restructuring plan touching Dallas, Miami, Las Vegas, and Baltimore. UPS spent 35 years building the idea that Atlanta was different, the city it was chosen from among hundreds, the city it built for, the city whose Olympics it bought a stake in. The network of the future plan doesn't contradict that story outright. It just makes clear that no city, not even the one on the letterhead, gets an exception when the numbers say otherwise. The company that once needed 100 boys on bicycles now needs fewer and fewer hands at all, and it's willing to prove that, even in its own backyard.